in the squadron. They called him Bullets, but we call him Greg Kelly. Greg Kelly is on the air
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hello. More than ever, I've come to embrace the mantra that nobody knows anything. Very few people, I guess engineers. I like engineers because they know stuff, right? There's physics. There are laws, natural laws of physics. And we know that if you drop something, it's going to fall. And we can figure out the speed, and we can figure out all kinds of things about that. If I had to do it all over again, I might pursue something along those lines. I don't want to call them the sciences. Remember that? Trust the science. The science. Follow the science. Well, the science often conflicts, right? But when people hold themselves out and are somehow viewed as authorities on nothing, and when they have absolutely no expertise in anything, and this is basically most people who pretend to be experts. Now, there is a guy, you may have heard of him. Carlos, take a look at this. His name is Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell. He's written about 20 books. I remember a couple of them. I read them because guess what? That was the fashionable thing to do. Everybody, oh yes, Malcolm Gladwell. Yes, The Tipping Point. Ah, yes. Half of you read this book so you can say, I read the book. Or maybe you pretended to read the book. Oh, Malcolm Gladwell. Yes. Oh, even his name was interesting. Malcolm Gladwell. Ooh, you're familiar with Malcolm Gladwell? Yes, I am. Aha. So you're in the club. You're literate enough. You're social enough. You're skilled enough. You have the New Yorker lying around your house. You glance at it. Ooh, Malcolm Gladwell. Yes. I saw Malcolm Gladwell speak once. You did? Tell me more. Yes. I know people who have been captivated by Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell says, I don't know where the hell he got up, came off with this stuff, but became an authority on pretty much everything. Some people along the way started to point out, you know what, this is probably junk science. It's junk science. He's found a niche. To hold himself out to be an expert because he hung around people like Bill Gates. And he comes back, and Bill Gates told me this, and this is what I found out about Bill Gates, and there would be no Bill Gates if he didn't live down the block from the University of Washington, because when he was a little kid, he could use their computer when nobody else was using it, and other than that, Bill Gates never would have figured anything out. And oh, by the way, you need 10,000 hours to get good at anything. Now, that's not true, actually. That's not true, and there's all kinds of things that we've discovered in aviation, actually, that you peak and valley in terms of your skill. And there is such a thing as too much experience, and you become blasé. You become very, very blasé and overconfident. Anyway, Malcolm Gladwell is his name, and he is a first-rate jerk. I happen to know that, actually, because he mistreated a friend of mine, a lady friend of mine. I don't want to say anything else, but let's just say he strang along a girl for years and years and years. Yeah, we're gonna get married. We're gonna get married. Right up until he found a younger woman to eat his crap. So I don't like him. I mean, maybe I can't. I only heard her version, right? I take it back. You could find somebody out there who says I'm a bit of a dog. But the Malcolm Gladwell books, I've come to realize, are crap, and people still feast on them. Ooh. And now I think he's really, literally phoning it in, showing up on podcasts, the easiest, possibly the stupidest environment going right now. And people come on there and say all kinds of things with all kinds of authority, and he even blew off doing what kind of made him a thing in the first place, doing the work, the research. Right? At least he went through the motions. Everything you're about to hear him say about General C.Q. Brown is wrong. Everything, from front to back. Who the hell is C.Q. Brown, by the way? Nobody knows. Nobody cares. C.Q. Brown. He was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he was the chief of staff to the Air Force. Now, you got to remember a couple of things that I know about CQ Brown that Malcolm Gladwell doesn't. But if he did 15 seconds of research, he would know that Donald Trump made him the chief of staff of the Air Force, made him the number one pilot. Okay, the number one pilot in the Air Force, Donald Trump did that. And I actually watched the ceremony, and I saw CQ Brown and his friends and family disrespect Donald Trump. Totally disrespected him. That room was so chilly, and it was President Trump's room. It was the Oval Office. They stuck it to him in big ways and small. And I was the one openly and fervently clamoring for this guy's ouster. And thank God President Trump got rid of him, because he was so over the top racial, right? I don't want to say racist. I'll call him a racialist. Everything must be racial. He happens to be black, CQ Brown. That's a big deal to him. Not to me, and not to pilots, and not to airplanes, and not to the laws of physics. All right, Malcolm Gladwell on CQ Brown and how devastating it was, even for MAGA, to watch him lose his job. Go ahead, Carlos.
Are you optimistic about the human project?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the arc of the moral universe?
Well, it's a little grim at the moment.
Yeah.
But I feel like, this is the story of American society is about backlash. It's all
just back and forth,
and forth. And I feel like the backlash, I think, to what's going on now will be pretty strong. I think people are. There was a story. I was at this is another story of a talk I gave. I was giving a talk and I mentioned CQ Brown. So CQ Brown was a guy I got to know when I did my Bomber Mafia book. He was chief of staff of the Air Force. And to be chief of staff of the Air Force is to be the winner in one of the most grueling meritocracies we have in America. Air Force is already the elite, right? And chief of staff is ahead of you have gone through 7 layers and at the very end, to get chosen to chief of staff, they have like a bake-off where they take the foremost brilliant people and they put them through like a year of the most demanding, and they pick the winner. And he was the winner.
The demand is what of the...
Who picked the winner? This guy won't say it. Donald Trump picked the winner. Donald Trump. Oh, it wasn't Donald Trump. It was the Secretary of the Air Force. All right. Donald Trump actually conducted the job interviews, you moron. And by the way, did you hear what the other guy said? There's going to be a backlash. They want to punish people who voted for Trump. Now, what do they have in mind? That would be, what's the word? Illegal. What's another word? Immoral. Malcolm and his fake intellectuals friends. Keep going. It gets worse, and it gets... All right.
Demand is what the demanding one?
Send you your predecessors, selects his possible successors, and gives them jobs, sends them around the world, puts them in, harm's way, whatever, to evaluate whether they're worthy of...
Are they literally like dangerous?
No, because you're
administrative
you're a 3-star general at that point.
Got it.
No, but you're being tested. And he emerged. These guys, if you ever meet a 4-star general, they are the most impressive people you'll ever... Anyway, CQ...
Stop. Generals are impressive. Some. Most not. Most not at all. How do you become a 4-star general? It's politics. It's politics. And up until now, quite frankly, Hegseth arrived, and he made a speech, and I'm working on a project about this. Hegseth, for all my issues with Hegseth, made an amazing speech almost a year ago at Quantico. And it was basically de-wokeify the military. But what was overlooked by everybody, he said, we in the military have to get away from the risk-averse environment. Nobody take any chances. The one way to not get promoted is to make a mistake, and it's documented. Well, if you never make a mistake, you never really do anything. You never try anything, right? So we have to get away from that in the military, and he's really changing the culture, and it's pretty amazing. All right, so Most of the 4-star generals aren't that impressive. I saw all these 4-star generals lying to us for decades. I mean, going back to Vietnam and then in Iraq and Afghanistan, how well everything was going in Afghanistan, right up until the day we lost. All right, pick it up, please.
It's because he's this superstar. And then he gets bumped up after he's to be head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the most senior military position in the United States. Again, he's rewarded because he's this. Trump rolls in and fires him because he's black. And Trump's whole thing was, remember, if you're black, then you must have gotten this job because of DEI, right? Which is so phenomenally offensive to this whole. And so I was at giving some talk to a room that I don't know, was probably majority Republican. And I talked about this, about like, this really upset me. And it didn't upset me. People if you talk to anyone in the Air Force, what happened to CQ Brown is stuck in their craw. It was offensive to the entire project that they're a part of, which is they're the last meritocracy. They don't fuck around with any of this stuff, right?
Uh-oh.
And so when some yahoo comes along and says, oh, you must have, this was affirmative action, they're like, no, do you know nothing about, anyway. I told the story, and I had the very, very strong sense. I had that sense you rarely have. You know this sense, though, as a performer. Everyone in the room was with me.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, you know what? I may have voted for this guy. But like, it's a bridge too far. You can't. This is not who we are, right? And I feel like if those guys, those kinds of things rankle.
Yeah.
People don't, the same thing with, I had a friend who knew Rob Reiner.
Mm-hmm.
And when, obviously was incredibly upset by his murder. And then when Trump writes that, it upset him in a way I've never seen him upset. Like, it shook him.
Yeah.
And there's the steady accumulation of these moments makes me feel like the backlash will be swift.
I'm hoping you're right, because I remember Chappelle telling me a story like 25 years ago. He had a dog.
This story makes no sense.
Like a little white Alaskan something. It's like a tiny little white dog.
All right, shut up. You want to hear why he got fired? All right? Why he got fired, you moron. How dare you speak with such blithe ignorance. A 4-star general should never speak this way. And the real tragedy is President Trump, I believe, promoted him after this moment, which was really bad. That was a mistake he made. He should have fired him earlier, should have fired more generals. This is CQ Brown while he's on active duty in June of 2020, a few days after George Floyd died. The drug dealer, the drug dealer and person who conducted a home invasion and threatened the pregnant lady, and who was not killed by Derek Chauvin. Okay? Go ahead, if you don't mind, please, Carlos.
As the commander of Pacific Air Forces, a senior leader in our Air Force, and an African American, many of you may be wondering what I'm thinking about the current events surrounding the tragic death of George Floyd. Here's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about how full I am with emotion, not just for George Floyd, but the many African Americans that have suffered the same fate as George Floyd. I'm thinking about protests in my country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, the equality expressed in our Declaration of Independence and the Constitution that I've sworn my adult life to support and defend. And thinking about a history of racial issues and my own experiences that didn't always sing of liberty and equality. I'm thinking about living in two worlds, each with their own perspective and views. I'm thinking about my sister and I being the only African Americans in our entire elementary school and trying to fit in. I'm thinking about then going to a high school where roughly half the students were African American and trying to fit in.
All right, you see what I mean? This guy is a racialist. He's never happy either. He doesn't like the white school, doesn't like the black school, doesn't like America, my country, 'tis of thee. Somebody insulted me 20 years ago. great big gigantic chip on his shoulder. Send him to a community college. All right, he can pursue oppression studies, but he does not belong in uniform, and thankfully he's not wearing a uniform anymore. And for that man to say it in the way he did, Malcolm Gladwell, Malcolm Suckswell, I'm sorry, he is a bad, bad guy. He is a bad, and he has the clout with the elites to gin them all up, just like he said in that dopey story of his, that dopey, false story. That man right there. That's why he fired him. And a few other reasons that I'm not going to tell you about right now, Malcolm. All right? Some things I know that you don't know. Actually, a lot that I know that you don't know. Now it's confirmed. Junk science. He's a junk science boy. We'll be right back.
Greg Kelly
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
All right, we're back. We'll take a call or two. Let's see. We have Tim standing by in New York. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Greg. Good afternoon. Real quick on Lindsey Graham. First of all, obviously condolences and, prayers to his family. It's very tragic and shocking. And, well, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I do think we should look into poisoning, and I'll tell you why. One, Putin has motive. He has the motive. He's a thug. He's a KGB thug. And number two, the greatest predictor of a future crime is a past crime, right? And he has done it before. He's literally done it before. And they would have known about Senator Graham's heart problems, and they could have devised some sort of a poison that would increase his blood pressure or do something to endanger his heart. Is there proof of it? No, but something seems fishy, and I feel like we should look into it.
I think we are looking into it. I mean, there's a thorough autopsy. I believe that they could probably kill him without a trace, though. I mean, as I said, these guys are working on this stuff all the time, how to kill somebody. Yeah. No, you make a great point with the past activity and the motive and all that stuff. And what's the motive? It could be revenge. Lindsey Graham said out loud, I'm going to find it when we come back, said out loud that Putin should be killed, right? Very early in the war, and very few people remember that. But Putin certainly didn't forget.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Totally cool, right? Back when television was an event. You knew when things were on at a certain time on Sunday night. I think that was on Sunday night. And it was replaced by the dopiest show in the world, Cannon. Oh, gosh, when they canceled that and replaced it with Cannon. And they did the same thing with the Planet of the Apes TV show. Another fantastic TV show. Granted, sometimes the opening was more excited than the show itself. More exciting, more interesting. I like to point moments like this out when somebody has an epiphany, an awakening. I've had many in my life, many. And I can tell you exactly where I was, when I was, what was going on, what was going down, where I was in my head when President Trump came down that escalator and said, America doesn't win anymore. And I'm like, yeah, he's right. We haven't been to the moon in 50 years, and we have to borrow the Russians' rockets. First thing I thought of. Charlottesville hoax, I remember that. I told you about that crazy guy on the news in 1989. I knew he was wrong. And now we have this gentleman, probably going to get his name, Chamath Palihapitiya. He's a Sri Lankan American venture capitalist and entrepreneur, and he founded and leads Social Capital, launched in 2011. He also was a senior executive at Facebook. The guy is incredibly smart and I believe incredibly rich. And he had an aha moment, and he shared it with all the business guys and that geek. He's not a geek, Andrew Rosszak, and he's okay. About what happened when he figured out the truth about the Charlottesville hoax. May we? Cut 14, please.
The reality is that most of us were lied to by the media about President Trump. And if you just go back to the source material, you should take away two things. One, he didn't say half the things he said. And two, why did these other people just fabricate what they wanted to say so that they could essentially assassinate his character? I think that that second thing is completely unacceptable in America. And there's still been no repercussions, really. I took the time to learn about it. I admitted where, the way that I met him was I admitted on the pod, which, has millions of viewers, and I said, I got it totally wrong. Because I went and I watched Charlottesville. And the first person to call me?
Who was it?
President Trump. And I got to know him, and I put the phone down. I called my wife, and I said, we got it totally, totally wrong. We were lied to. And then I got to know him, and he is fantastic.
How about that? Why are they so committed? Why would they be so committed to not telling the truth about him? What are they afraid of? It does kind of boggle my mind. I used to run. Part of it is COVID, right? And sometimes, God works in mysterious ways, but it used to be that the media kind of ran together more than it does now, and groupthink and the rest. These people genuinely think he's a menace, and they, I believe, genuinely ignore, like they don't even see it. They come up with this idea in their head, and anything that does not back that idea up is dismissed, is discarded. And that is dangerous. And he's not wrong. No repercussions whatsoever. None. It's, they keep, and, they say, oh, the media is dying. They're still making money. The lights are on somehow over there. Anybody ever hear of Tony Robbins? I was listening to Tony Robbins over the weekend. His first book, Awaken the Giant Within. I'm reading it because Gavin Newsom, in his book, totally botches Tony Robbins. He gives a summary of Tony Robbins' philosophy. Hey, copy people. Just copy people, and then you will become those people. It's not what Tony said. He talked about role models and that kind of thing. So I went a little bit, I'm trying to debunk everything that Gavin Newsom has ever said or written, and I'm doing a pretty good job with it. But I found myself going a little bit deeper into Tony Robbins and reading his book. And I've always liked Tony, was kind of into that in college, and then went to a seminar about 15 years ago. Then I found God, Jesus, and I really found less need for Tony. No offense, Tony, but I still think he's a force for good. But he actually treated people and came up with programs for the government. He worked for the Army. He worked for the Pentagon. He worked at the CIA. And the thing that really struck him at the CIA is how the CIA is very, very good at stripping people of their moral foundation. They can do that. Now, how do they do that? Why do they do that? That's what intrigued me, that they can get people to think any way they want. Well, how do they do that, and why do they do that, and would they ever do it to the American people? And I'm thinking the answer to that is somebody did this to the American people. Somebody started abusing children in broad daylight and pretended that was a civil right. How did that happen? How did drag queens start showing up in public libraries and the state of New York Attorney General goes there and celebrates that this is somehow a beautiful thing instead of an arrestable offense? That didn't just happen, right? That was designed. It had to be designed. Hey, by the way, Lindsey Graham left behind modest wealth despite decades in Washington's elite circles. Let's see here. Republican Lindsey Graham served in Congress. He died with a modest net worth compared to many of his longtime Washington colleagues. The senator died with a net worth of about $1.4 million, with congressional disclosures from May showing a lower-end estimate of just over $600,000 and an upper estimate of a little more than $2.2 million. Is that where they get the 1.4? According to financial disclosures, Graham ranked 294th in wealth among the 535. I wonder if they're factoring in everything, real estate and that kind of thing. If you're single and you're making a 6-figure salary, and he's been making a 6-figure salary since, let's see here, 1994. He's been making at least 100,000. He should have more money, and he probably does. This can't be the full financial picture. And these guys do get tipped off about certain things, and it's legal. I don't know. It's kind of admirable. Joe Biden, fortune, beach houses, mountain houses, Rolexes, for Tuesday, Wednesday, another one for Friday. Annie Leibovitz coming over, traveling the world, making loans to his brother, embezzling money and money laundering and all that stuff. That guy's got oodles of cash. You ever see his house, by the way? That house is a palace. That house is a palace. Is Joe on the line? Is Joe in Mount Sinai? Put him on the line, please.
Hello, Greg. How are you?
Hi.
As far as what's her name, Amy Coney Barrett, if it's too much for her, she could resign. And I wanted to tell you almost a tragic story, but it worked out to be very good. My son had an accident. He lit a match to light a cigarette when he had alcohol on him, and he went up in flames.
What kind of alcohol did he have on him?
Rubbing alcohol from using it to clean some crap on an old wooden desk that he refuses to throw away. He's germophobic.
How old is he?
He's going to be 20 on his next birthday.
Huh. All right. So what happened next?
I tackle him. He won't go out. I'm trying. I'm pulling the shirt away from his face, and all of a sudden I feel like I'm going to give up. And I had some divine intervention, and my wife threw something over us. It gave me enough time to put him out. This was like the longest 15 to 20 seconds of my life. And I didn't know how he was going to turn out. He's bandaged. The skin is coming off his face. 14 days later, he's home, and it just looks like he was in the sun a little too long. His shoulder got a little worse as a deal, but through prayer and the grace of God.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, Joe, we're so glad to hear that. Really, that's a close call. Well done saving and coming to the rescue there. Let me ask you something. Is he going to smoke anymore? 20 years old and smoking. He shouldn't be smoking. What the hell?
And I know that. I hope not. But 17 or 16 years ago, we had another close call with a fire that started in our house in Brooklyn with Christmas lights. And I had to throw him. We were sleeping. I had to throw him on the other couch and push the couch out the front door, and it set the house on fire. So this is 2 for 2. We live to fight another day twice. I hope we don't have to face something like this again, because I ain't going to be around forever.
All right. Well, man, I'm sorry you went through that, but boy, oh boy. Those prayers, I think, paid off, Joe. This is a beautiful thing. What's your son's name?
Theodore. He goes by Theo, and we call him Teddy.
What does he do? Is he in school? Is he working? What does he do?
He's in school. He's going to be going back to school, hopefully in the end of August.
All right. Well, while he's recovering, why don't you throw out that junk desk that he likes so much?
Just to let it go, but I'm gonna. There's a new one. There's a new desk that just has to be assembled. These gaming desks, they call them, with the lights and everything else.
It's a pain in the neck. It's a pain in the neck. Anything from IKEA. Oh my gosh, that stuff. It's oh gosh. I let the guys do it. I always pay to have somebody else, or my wife, who, by the way, is I'm realizing is off the charts genius. Just a genius woman. It's kind of humbling. All right. Thank you, everybody. We got to take a quick break. Now, is Todd Blanche getting weak? The Attorney General here, I got an email that suggests he's getting a little bit weak. I don't want you guys to be weak. I want you to be strong. The system sucks. You got a bucket. Todd. Man up. All right? We call you General. You're an Attorney General. Let that go to your head a little bit. I'm serious. Enjoy it. Enjoy the power. Enjoy the authority. 4 years ago, right now, it was all January 6th all the time. Where the hell are the arrests? When is Barack Obama going to be subpoenaed? All right. Now, look, I'm all for, I'm not in a rush. If you guys got to do it, take your time, do it right. But what I got right here suggests that he's getting a little bit nervous. We'll be right back with that.
Greg Kelly, entertaining and informative
on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Well, all right, this looks to be a little bit of a standard fake news fare, clickbait for the headline. Todd Blanche, I first met him actually at the trial downtown. I went to the trial. I thought it was a duty. And after I went and when President Trump came into the court, I stood up. I couldn't believe nobody in the room stood up. I stood up and he was too far away for me to shake hands, but he said hello and I said hello and I gave him the thumbs up and right back. Great to see you, Greg. And after that moment, and Maggie Haberman wrote about it in the New York Times, a flood of other people started to come. It's like, oh, wow, we can get some press here? I didn't go for that reason. I wanted to support him. And number two, I was curious. And number three, I was angry about the whole damn thing. Todd Blanche was the defense lawyer along with Emil Bove. They had 50 freaking prosecutors in there, including Matthew Colangelo, the government's hitman, target Trump. Matt Colangelo, hitman. Where is he now? I got to find out. I'd like to conduct a little legal protest right outside of his home or office. My constitutional right. All right, we won't break any laws, but he needs to know that I know what a rotten scoundrel he is. So there's this whole thing now. He's up for confirmation, Todd Blanche. And they're trying to create a rift between him and Ed Martin. Ed Martin is another great lawyer who's defended a lot of January 6 matters and January 6 people. He was actually there on January 6th. And he was the acting U.S. attorney, but they pulled him from that because they couldn't confirm him because of weaklings like Tom Tillis of North Carolina. See you later, Tom. And the same goes for you, too, Joni Ernst of Iowa. Can't believe these two. Anyway, the headline is, I'm frustrated. But there's no context. The allegation is, let's see here. This is becoming a real problem, Ed. Then Mr. Blanche, the two appear destined to clash. Just give me the entire email. I want to see the entire email. Let me see if this is a real story. If you say, I am frustrated, you could be frustrated with a lot of different things. And, oh, by the way, when are colleagues not frustrated with each other? Why is that a scandal if it's government, right? Have you ever heard of office politics? Happens everywhere. Wherever there's more than one human being, there's going to be essentially, there's going to be friction sometimes. There's going to be collegiality. There's going to be cooperation. There's going to be productivity, but there's also going to be the downside of human interaction. And so there's a little bit here. Guess what? Oh my gosh, wait, was it a turf war? A little bit of a turf war? Could you imagine in Washington, a turf war? Front page news in the New York Times. We're almost done. I predict Pamela Evette is going to be the next senator from South Carolina right after Lindsey Graham's sister, who seems like a great lady and totally up for the task. Hey, you got my Lindsey? We'll play that. Where's that little thingamajig? Lindsey Graham's sister spoke very, very beautifully. I was impressed, watching your brother be a senator for all those years. You learn a thing or two. Cut one, if you don't mind. Cut one.
I know Lindsey thought the world of his staff and colleagues, and with their support, I feel confident. I think this is what Lindsey would have wanted, and I plan to honor him.
That's beautiful. Very beautiful. And a 71-year-old man dying is shocking news. I'm not faulting the fake news. I'm agreeing with the fake news. Cut 5.
We are all just absorbing this news. We are all in shock.
Shocking tragedy. South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham dies unexpectedly at the age of 71.
Rattling Washington this morning, the unexpected news that Senator Graham has died from what his office calls a brief and sudden illness at the age of 71.
Hey, what's up with the brief and sudden illness? That doesn't seem, if it's a heart attack, great. If it's a brief and sudden illness, that suggests to me, who knows? Poison? Could it be poison? All right, let's do this real quick. We got David. Yes, sir. Is he there? I can't hear him. Can you hear him? All right. Roberto, hello.
Yes. Can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, I can. You're on the air.
I was watching Spanish TV. I could give you the channel names if you want. I won't, though, unless you ask for it. And they're saying that they have certain Russian-affiliated sources that do admit that Lindsey Graham was poisoned. One of them was even laughing, saying, "Hey, Lindsey, the next time you eat a salad, check the salad dressing." And they're saying that this was done because he was too affiliated with Ukraine, providing funding for Ukraine, providing military acquisitions for Ukraine, and, was very pro-Russian. So Mr. Putin made a decision, and it was carried out.
So when you saw this on the Spanish TV, was this just a couple of Spanish guys on Spanish TV shooting the breeze and wondering? I mean, how do we know? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the journalist was saying it, and they interviewed, it's called KGB. I don't know what that is. A KGB.
KGB, that's the Soviet spy. That's the Russia spy. What Spanish channel?
Telemundo.
Telemundo, of course. All right, to be continued, everybody. Give me a... See you later.
Thanks for listening to The Greg Kelly Show. You can hear The Greg Kelly Show weekdays at 12:15 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?